So I'm now talking to budding songwriter, 50-year-old Brian Rogers. So Brian, hello.
Hello.
Lovely to see you.
All right, nice
so
to meet you.
Brian, tell me about your story. You're from Birmingham and you've got a story to tell. So tell me about it.
I'm from Birmingham, and back in 1983, I sat down and wrote a song. Well, the lyrics to a song. I seen in some advertisement in a magazine called Tidbits about a composer that wanted people to write in and give him lyrics and that kind of stuff, which I did, and I sent him £10 in the post, sent my lyrics off, and then a few weeks later I got a letter in the post, and it was the lyrics that I wrote plus all the music to a song that he composed on on the score sheet or whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh God, this is amazing. I've wrote a song, and I thought, who can I send it to? So the first person I thought, I was mad about the Beatles, so I sent it to Sir Paul McCartney. I sent a copy to EMI Records and a copy to MPL, McCartney Publications Limited, and I never received no reply. So it was a long time after, sometime after, he was doing a film called Give My Regards to Broad Street, and one of the title songs for that film was No More Lonely Nights. So I thought to myself, oh, he's got night in his song, he had a part in his song, and I thought, I look at my song and compare the two, and I thought, oh, he's used my song. I didn't have no proof at the time. But
you really felt that your song had been used?
Yeah, and I wrote to MPL, McCartney Publications Limited, and says to him, you've used my song, Paul McCartney's used my song, and they wrote back to me and they categorically denied that Paul McCartney had used the song. And I mean, I was a bit down about that, because I thought, oh, someone as big as him, But I didn't have much proof, and then many years later I went to the Central Library in Birmingham, and I seen a man called Mr. Goff, he's head of the music department. He took me in a room and he played the piano, and he played McCartney's version of No More Lonely Nights, and he played my song. And he compared the two, and he says, yes, he has used the music to my song or whatever. And
was that similar? He actually identified it himself,
by playing the piano, he identified that Sir Paul McCartney had used the music to my song or whatever. He hadn't used much of the lyrics. I could identify some parts of the song where he just changed it round. For example, I put all I ever need is you, babe, come on and dance the night away. The first time I met you, my heart was on fire and kept on burning for your love and desire. Now he's just changed it round to you've only got my heart on the string and everything a flutter. Well, anyway, cut a long story short, I sent another letter to MPL, and they just says we don't accept unsolicited material. So I left it at that, and it was always on my mind all them years.
How many years ago was this, Brian?
1983.
Right, okay.
1983. So I left it for a few years, and then I couldn't believe that Paul McCartney was getting married in County Monaghan in Ireland, and that's where my Uncle John's got a farm. He got married at Castle Leslie, and my Uncle John's farm's not far from there. And I thought, what's going on here? That's a bit strange. But,
did that make you think it was a coincidence
that
he was there?
Yeah, coincidence, I had it on my mind, why is he getting married there? But I did see on the news that his mum is somewhere around that area. Paul McCartney's mum is from that area. Anyway, I left it at that and thought nothing more. But every time I heard about Paul McCartney, I was so mad in the head about the song and all that. And he never wrote back to me and says, oh, I did use your song and everything like that. But then my mother died in 1997, and I started to feel depressed and everything, and I started hearing voices, and the first voice I heard, it was like I had a microchip in my ear, and the first voice I heard was Sir Paul McCartney saying, "I did not steal your song." But just before my mum died, I had hypnosis to go into show business and that. I've seen it in a stage newspaper, that it helps you cope with confidence and that kind of stuff or whatever. And not long after that, my mum died, and then I started hearing voices, and one of the voices was Sir Paul McCartney saying, "I did not steal your song," and then I heard voices about from the government saying, "Leave him alone," and all this kind of thing. He's a popular man, and I heard so many voices and that, and I thought it's all down to the hypnosis, and it was nasty, evil voices. And then there was once I heard some voices that were telling me to send in parcels of basically rubbish or whatever that I had in my flat. But one of them was the voices were telling me, it's hard to explain, like the voices were telling me I was like a robot and I couldn't control it, and I was trying, one part of my brain was panicking, "Don't do this, you're going to get in a lot of trouble." Like, there was another guy, I mean, them Beatles are jinxed in some way or whatever, but there was another guy, I wouldn't harm anybody or nothing like that, but there was another guy that had a go at George Harrison or whatever, and I got worried about what I was going to get into just by posting these parcels. I wasn't going to harm nobody or nothing like that. But anyway, the voices kept telling me, "Go up the road and post a parcel, send Paul McCartney back to his farm and working on his farm because you wrote the hit song that he used," or whatever.
And what were you going to put in the parcel, Brian?
There was like rubbish, basically, like a pair of jeans to Ringo Starr to go and work on the farm as well, and all that kind of stuff. It's a bit bad, I know that. But one of the things I sent was a Mona Lisa with a cannabis joint in her mouth. And I couldn't believe I was sending that. And anyway, I sent all these parcels or whatever, and I got really scared at what was going to happen. Then one day, I did send my name and address and telephone number. Then one day I got a telephone call from Paul McCartney's head of security, and he says, "Is this Mr. Rogers?" He was a Scottish guy, and he says, "Is this Mr. Rogers?" And I says, "Yeah." He says, "The girls are getting a bit upset about all the parcels we're sending into the office." And I says, "Oh, I'm sorry about that." And I couldn't tell him that I was hearing voices or nothing. There was nothing I could do. I was in a...
Did you see a doctor at that stage?
Pardon?
Did you see a doctor at that stage, Brian?
Yeah, I was seeing psychiatrists and all that kind of stuff. It's basically after my mum's death that I went downhill, and I was hearing these voices. It was a form of psychosis or whatever, now I believed that to be. And anyway, so I sent Paul McCartney all these parcels and the Mona Lisa with the cannabis joint in her mouth, and I thought, that is so weird, and I kept thinking to myself, these Beatles are jinxed. I've seen ghosts, I've seen everything I did. Okay, it's probably in my unconscious mind or whatever. And I was beginning to believe that the hypnotist had done something to my mind. She was working for the government and all this kind of stuff, palaver or whatever.
And what did the head of security say to you when you phoned up?
The head of security at Paul McCartney's MPL says, "Mr. Rogers, we've received some parcels from you, and you're upsetting the girls in the office." And I says, "I'm sorry about that." And I says, I'll send the money to send the parcels back." And he says, he says, "Don't worry about it, we'll be in touch." So a few days later, I seen a postman coming down the hallway with a big box, and lo and behold, the head of security sent all the nice and neatly wrapped, all the parcel, a big parcel of all the stuff I'd sent to Paul McCartney. And then the voices told me, "Just go and chuck it in the skip outside." And it's unbelievable what them voices were like. They were so real and everything. It's unbelievable.
And how long did they last for?
I had psychosis for a good 15 years, and
But you became very anxious, didn't you, about the fact that you felt that your song had been used?
Yeah, I was so anxious about Paul McCartney not writing back to me, and I reckon that's what triggered all the psychosis off. Paul McCartney not saying, "Oh, look, I did use your song" or whatever. I know he's a popular man and everything, and it just went to my head that someone like that has used my song and not told me.
Would you have liked him to have said, yes, I've used your song, or no, I haven't used your
I kept
song?
writing to him and asked him for his autograph, and all his secretary says to me was, "We only give it to charity." Okay, it's worth about 300 quid if you do get it. I didn't want to sell it. I would have accepted his autograph, but he didn't send it, he wouldn't send it, and he knew who I was and everything.
And
I do believe.
did he ever acknowledge the fact that you were trying to get a yes or a no answer to the question that you thought that he'd used your music? Did he ever say, I haven't used it, or
No, he
yes,
never,
I have?
Not at any time did he say that he'd used my song. All I remember is that letter that I got, the first letter that says, "We categorically deny that Paul McCartney's used your song," and that was one of his directors that sent it from MPL. So anyway, so then I left it at that for a bit, and I had the psychosis. Eventually, I seen a Chinese doctor, herbal doctor, and he, my psychiatrist diagnosed with manic depression, and I seen a Chinese doctor eventually who helped me by giving me herbal medicine, and the voices disappeared. I never heard no voices again or nothing, and I mean, I'm back to normal now. I did send the song to various other people in the music business, see what would happen, and once I sent it to Pete Waterman, Stockaking of Waterman. I didn't send it to Steps, but I sent it to boy band A1, Ben Adams, because I liked that group, and I thought they'd probably like the song and that kind of stuff. But I never heard nothing back, and like a few months later, I got a brown envelope in the post. I thought, oh, that's my writing, and it was an autograph from Steps, all with love hearts on and everything like that. And I thought, what are they sending me their autograph for, And so I thought, what's going on here? And so I looked on the telly, and they had a song in the charts called Stomp, and it was the exact same song I sent to Paul McCartney, but speeded up a bit. But they'd used a few lyrics. I don't know how much of the music they'd used or whatever, but Steps sent me their autograph with love hearts on and everything as a thank you, I thought. And
because you hadn't requested an autograph from them.
And I found out they had the same management, 19 Management it's called. They had the same management as boy band A1. Now, Steps, I wrote to Bring Blood at Steps Management. I says, listen, have you used my song? And he or she wrote back, I don't know whether it's he or she, and they says, you have to speak to Pete Waterman about it. So I wrote a letter to Pete Waterman, and his secretary sent a letter back saying, no, we have not used your song. And that upset me even worse. I got more depressed and everything, and I thought, oh, what they're doing to me or whatever. And then I did know that Pete Waterman had some connection with Paul McCartney, and he says that Paul McCartney, if you have anything to deal with Liverpool or that, Pete Waterman goes to Paul McCartney or whatever, and I seen him on the Piers Morgan show. And I thought, oh, because I did send the Paul McCartney letter to Ben Adams at Boy Band A1, and I thought that one might influence them on taking the song on or whatever, oh, Paul McCartney might have, Paul McCartney's nicked this song, let's use it or whatever, But anyway, Pete Waterman says he never used it. So then, some time ago, I was in Milton Keynes, and I seen Ben Adams, and I says to him, I sent a song to you, and I never got no money for it or whatever. Pete Waterman never gave me no money for it. He's categorically denied that he's used the song. And Ben Adams says, he says, oh, them so and so, well, I won't mention what he says, but he says, he called him a name or whatever, and he says, yeah, that's bad or whatever, there's nothing I can do about it, I don't know nothing about 19 management, blah, blah, blah. And then I gave a copy of the song to Ben Adams later when I went to see him at Panto in Milton Keynes with Elvis Presley's wife or whatever, and but I mean, this is bad news, you know, for me, because I've been so stressed up about this all for getting on since 1983 now, the Paul McCartney thing, the Steps thing. And I just want them to admit that they've used the song. I'm not saying I'm a megastar or anything like that, or, you know, megastar writer or something like that. But I just want them to admit that they've used my song or whatever. I mean, what's really brought all this back to me is I've seen Steps on Come Dancing a few weeks ago on the Saturday I think it was, and that it's just flooded my mind again, you know, about writing back to them saying you have used my song, yeah. It's just driving me insane, you know. I mean, I've got a little recording studio in my bedroom or whatever, and I admire people like Daniel Bedingfield. He's a good songwriter. He wrote all his stuff in the bedroom, you know, and I want to do the same thing at some point, yeah, write another good song or whatever. And
but you just feel frustrated at the moment.
Yeah,
that
I
you
just
can't
feel
move
frustrated.
forward.
I've seen Steps on Saturday on Come Dancing, and it's just upset my mind, you know, again. And every time I see Paul McCartney, I did write to George Michael as well, and I got a letter back from him, and he says we have no signed material in the office, blah blah blah, and we can't accept unsolicited material. I says Paul McCartney's licked my song, but that's all I got back from George Michael's gang or whatever. But
so what would you like, Brian, to bring this sort of torment really that you have?
I'd love them to say
end?
yes, we have used your song, or we've used your idea.
You truly believe that that's the case?
Yeah. I mean, Mr. Goff at Birmingham Central Library says, I mean, he's top head of the music department. He says Paul McCartney has used the song, and he's used the music to the song. I mean, I didn't write the music. A man by the name of Herbert Flack Taylor, who's now dead, I found out he died in 1987 or something like that. But I mean, he wrote the music, but I wrote the lyrics, and it's just sent me Potter, you know. It's all in my unconscious mind, you know, and I need for some of them to say, oh yeah, we did use your song.
So really what you're looking for is closure?
Yeah, closure, yeah, as Jeremy Kyle would say.
Well, Brian, it's been fascinating talking to you today.
Okay,
thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thanks.
And I truly hope that you get some conclusion to your story.
Yeah,
but thank you for sharing it with us.
I hope so too. Okay, thanks
Thank
for that.
you for sharing it with us. Thank you.